All right, folks, tonight we have session 2 in our mountain travel and rescue class. This is going to be about clothing for surviving in winter weather in the mountains, specifically in the high Rockies, but I guess this will work in other mountains in cold weather and other places that aren't mountains in cold weather. So let's get started here. First, we want to do a base layer up against our skin, something that wicks moisture away from your body. Is skiing, snowshoeing, and you generate quite a bit of heat. So you want a material that's going to wick moisture away from your body and not keep moisture against you. For that reason, cotton is pretty much out of the question. There's a saying in mountaineering that cotton kills. Its insulation value drops to about 35% once it gets wet, which is pretty terrible. There are a lot of great fabrics. You've got silk, retains a lot of heat when wet. I like merino wool is my favorite. It's a nice thin layer and it keeps a lot of its heat when it gets wet and tends to pull that moisture away from your body pretty quickly. There are also some great synthetics, and this is tops and bottoms, so some nice long ones, old long johns. Right, we've got some synthetic materials: polypropylene, polyester, acrylic, rayon. They've all got some different qualities and properties. It's important that it feels good on your body. It just stinks when you have a material that doesn't work well with your skin. Some people get rashes to merino wool and just can't deal with the wool, so you've got to go with the synthetic, which is pretty good, but not quite as good as wool. Then we've also got some other layers, like this has got like a Gore-Tex windproof material to it. So this could be a nice base layer or like an in-between layer. We've got some other thicker things, like I've had this shirt forever, and it's a nice long zippers are pretty handy. Sometimes if you're getting overheated, you can unzip quite a bit and vent off some of that heat. I like some of the shirts with the holes for your thumbs at the end of them, because that way you can put them inside your gloves. If it's particularly windy or cold outside, you can keep extra warmth around your wrists and hands, which can be pretty clutch. Some of this stuff can be pretty expensive, but then you can have some old military surplus gear, the ninja suit. I've even got some old ones from the 90s that I'm actually wearing right now under my pants. They're still fantastic. So anything like that works great. We also want to make sure we take care of our feet. We lose a lot of our heat in the cold through our feet, and our heads are our most prominent places. So taking care of your feet, make sure they're dry and warm, is super important. A few types of socks I like. If you have particularly sweaty feet, and you can tend to get athlete's feet, maybe toes rubbing together, Injinji and a few other companies make these fantastic socks. They look kind of goofy, but when you have foot problems and they keep your toes all dry and warm, it's pretty hard to knock them. So they're pretty nice, especially if you're out in a super cold day. Maybe you're not as active, you're hunting, something like that. You can put a pair of these on under another pair of wool socks. Again, I like merino wool. It's not as itchy as standard wool, and it's not a brand. It's just it's a type of wool. It's a really fine wool that's not quite as itchy as standard wool. So snowboarding socks are pretty fantastic. They pull up to your knees and they can keep your legs quite warm. Or ski socks as well. Smart Wool makes some fantastic ones. Ski socks tend to have cushion or insulation along the front of the shin with a thinner material in the back that help your feet breathe a little bit better. So they're great. Along with, if your feet are cold, some other liner socks. Smart Wool makes some really thin liner socks that you can put under other socks. Or if your feet sweat a whole lot, maybe this is all you need. If you've got a really warm boot, you can get away with a thin one. There are also some military style socks work great, and the warmest sock of them all is the Smart Wool Mountaineer sock. These things are so thick. I've had these things forever. You can almost wear them like slippers. They're fantastic, and will definitely keep your feet warm. All right, moving along to the head, right? We lose a lot of heat through our heads, and something, well, goggles, they're important. We'll get to that in a minute. but some kind of wool hat, beanie of some sort will keep your head warm, and you can retain a lot of heat in your head that way. We also have balaclavas of different thicknesses, and some of these are nice where if the material is stretchy enough, you can use it in multiple ways. And you can go ninja style, of course, or you can go, you know, face open, or you can even take this thing and roll it up into a hat. Oh, glasses are stuck. You can kind of have like a lightweight beanie. This can also work as a great helmet liner if you're doing skiing or some extreme snowshoeing. It's pretty fun running around jumping off of cliffs in your snowshoes sometimes, but this can work great under a ski helmet and keep your head extra warm. We've got a few different versions of that. We've also just got like a buff or neck gaiter that you can just cover up, bring down, and use like a scarf. This one's Darth Vader. And let's see. And we've got some more thicker balaclavas. Some of them are made to be opened a little bit more easily. This one's got a thinner material around the hat, the top of your head to fit under a helmet, with a thicker material and fleece around the face. There's a bunch of great stuff out there. If you're hiding out in the woods and laying in the snow, you've got the old school ninja hood here. Gloves, you want to keep your hands warm and dry. So I like to carry a few different thicknesses of gloves with me. I've got a lightweight, not very windproof, but pretty breathable for warmer conditions. Sometimes you just need to do fine motor skills with your fingers too in cold weather, so having something that's thin that you can do stuff with is pretty good. I like a medium weight kind of leather glove with some kind of fleece insulation inside. You can also use a bunch of Gore-Tex gloves, and there's hybrid leather palm with Gore-Tex backs, and you name it. Anything kind of mid-weight that you can work with and move without overheating too much. And then I like the really warm gloves for the super cold and windy days. And something like this is, you know, we've got leather palms and some leather back with some stretchable Gore-Tex. And this has got a removable wool liner inside, so that keeps super warm. And what else do we have here? I'll put my hat back on. So let's get to the goggles. On windy, you might be able to hear the wind right now. On windy days, sunny days, you want something to protect your face. This not only keeps the sun out of your eyes, but it keeps the wind off your eyes, and that could be pretty awful day if you've just got wind blowing and no goggles. You may have some low light conditions that you're working with as well. We've got clear goggles for that. Maybe you're up early or out late, whatever it is, so try and plan for that. Some goggles have interchangeable lenses where you can have a clear lens and a low light lens and a high sun lens, and you can interchange them pretty quickly, and they store up pretty small in your pack. So goggles are handy to have. We've got some more mid layers and outer layers that we can look at. Again, cotton you want to stay away from, so you can use things like a wool button-down collar shirt, something like that's pretty handy. You want to stay away from flannel, even though it's cozy. I wear it around the house, but it's not very good for outdoor activity in cold weather when you can retain a lot of moisture. It'll just freeze to you, and you'll have a miserable day. Something else warm you can put over on the extra cold days is your Star Wars fleece pajama pants. It's a super cheap alternative. These are usually cheaper than some sort of ski long underwear and quite a bit warmer. So on a little bit chillier days, maybe some fleece pajama pants could do the trick for you. And I'm also a big fan of hoodies. And again, you got to watch out, make sure it's not a cotton one, but some sort of poly. This has got like a Sherpa fleece lining. This is fantastic on cold days. I'll put this up over my stuff. Nice and breathable. I like the big zips. Snow pants. You can spend a little bit or a lot on snow pants, but it's features really that you want to look for. I've seen some expensive snow pants that don't have the right features that I need, and I've seen some cheap ones that work pretty well. These you can see I've repaired. They're Patagonia, and they're like a thick Cordura nylon on the outside. They're waterproof. The feature I like on these is the full zip side. Now this is handy not just for maybe you're hiking uphill and it's too hot and you want to vent. You can blow off some heat by unzipping the sides quite a bit. And in my work as a ski patroller, I saw quite a few broken legs, and you generally basically just cut the ski pants wide open to be able to get the splint on and do the work on the leg. But in this case, you can just unzip the pant leg and save yourself the cost of buying another pair of pants in the case that you break your leg. The last thing you want to do on top of it is have to buy a new pair of ski pants. Another thing you want to look for is a good gaiter in the bottom of the ski pant. And this will come down tight over your boots and keep snow out. This one's got an adjustable buckle that will tighten down over your boots. And then it's also got a couple of loops here that you can tie a string or a loop around to come under your shoe and stay tight so that way it won't pull up off of your boots. So some things to look for in ski pants: vents and gaiters. All right, so another great insulator I always take with me is a down coat. Not always wearing it, but sometimes you need it and you're glad you do. This can also be a substitute sleeping bag. Maybe throw all your layers on if you need to in an emergency. Another good idea to have on hand is a vest. Some sort of synthetic material is generally pretty good. This one's been through the ringer. But lots of lightweight, compressible materials out there these days that make carrying extra stuff not too bad. The vest is great too because it'll keep your core warm while still letting you vent off some heat while you're working out. So this is a great hiking, going uphill sort of piece. Another way you can go for outside pants is some sort of rain pant. Now this one is got long zips up the sides, so you can kind of put these on if maybe you're going and it's a bit warmer and maybe weather kicks up and you don't want to carry too much with you. Something like this packs up small, and you can unzip this and put them right over your boots. So another feature you can look for. And then along with something like this, you're going to have snow getting in between your pants and your boots if the snow is deep enough, which I'm counting it's going to be. And in that case, you're going to want some sort of gaiters. You can get these. There's hunting versions that are made to be super quiet and they've got camo, and there's some more mountaineer versions that don't matter how quiet or loud they are. But this thing basically goes around the top of your boot, hooks to your laces, string comes up underneath your heel, and it comes up to your knees and keeps all the snow out from your pants and your boots. So if you don't have the full ski pants set up, a pair of these with a pair of waterproof pants works pretty well. Now for jackets, you may want to go visible or less visible. Black is actually still pretty visible in snow conditions because you stand out on the white snow. A couple things I like is make sure you've got a hood, and this is just basically a Gore-Tex shell. It's windproof, waterproof, and pretty good for even summertime if it's not too hot out. Works in a rainstorm in a pinch. Something I like in particular to look for on a snow sports jacket, if you're skiing especially, is some inside pockets that will accept large things like skins. So when you climb up the hill with your skins on your skis, take these off at the top of the hill so you can ski down. You got to put the skins somewhere, and if you don't want to take your whole pack apart and stuff them in the pack, you can stuff one skin in each side of your jacket pocket. These also work great for coffee thermoses and all kinds of stuff like that. Jackets carried a lot of coffee thermoses in those pockets. And another consideration too is maybe some winter camo. You can get some lightweight, just throw over your winter clothes sort of stuff for your conditions. You can even get some old army surplus. These are like dirt cheap. You can get them on Amazon. Fantastic. So Let's see. And aside from that, what else do we have? Here's some footwear. So if you're not doing some as heavy activity, you can go with something like a muck boot. These things are pretty warm. They make them in different temperature ratings. The Arctic Sport, I think, are supposed to be good to 40 or 60 below or something like that. They're great, but they don't breathe. So if you're doing a lot of hiking and sweating, working hard, your feet, or you're going to be swimming in these things after a while. They get pretty squishy when they're wet. And then they're not super warm when you're that wet either. Something to hike around in is like a standard hiking boot with a bit of insulation. If it's a little warmer, you can get away with something like this. If it's a little colder, something with a little bit more leather. Maybe a Gore-Tex sleeve and some insulation inside works pretty well. You can go with the micro spikes or yak track, some sort of traction device on the bottom. If you're not snowshoeing, you're walking on harder trails, that works pretty great. These, along with the gaiters we were looking at before and some waterproof pants, will do pretty well for a lot of conditions, except for super high up here in the Rockies. And another pair would be something like this. These are my favorite. My feet sweat a lot. They've got really thick wool liners, and they tend to soak up all that moisture and keep your feet pretty dry, and you tend to stay warm for a long time, whether you're working hard or not. I've gone snowshoeing in them before. They can get a little hot when it gets warmer out, but I have never gotten cold in these boots. And then one last piece of footwear you might want to look at is some sort of camp bootie. These are like down, compressible, really tiny camp booties. And when you get to camp after a long day of slogging in your super heavy boots, maybe you've got ski boots on, these are real nice to be able to put on lightweight, warm shoes that you can walk around in and let your ski boots dry out overnight. So I think that about wraps up our clothing section. Basically, we want to remember some sort of wicking base layer that does not like moisture up against your body, so it'll pull moisture away. We want an insulation layer, and then we want some kind of windproof, waterproof layer on top of that. Make sure you always check your weather and bring appropriate clothing. All right, stay warm out there.